Okay, here's a story for you. Now, when we were kids, and I mean like seventh, eighth grade, we didn't have a lot of toys. I mean, and nobody in the neighborhood had a lot of toys. Just weren't. People didn't. A little one toy or two toys for Christmas, and one something for your birthday. That was it, and it was all of us. We were all kind of in the same socioeconomic area, you know. Anyway, but what we had, the kids don't have today. We didn't have electric games and stuff like that, no cell phones. We had freedom. We could go anywhere. Nobody was worried about somebody getting kidnapped or somebody getting killed or, you know, it just didn't happen. So if you got on your bike, you could go. Okay, if you wanted to walk, you could walk wherever you wanted to go. So we would take hikes. Now, today I'm going to tell you about a hike, but I'll give you an example. We had two hobby shops that we used to like to go to. Now, hobby shops, as a kid, hobby shops were fascinating for us because they'd have model cars, model boats, model planes, all built, you know, with engines and stuff on. And they were just, it was just interesting to go and look at all the stuff that they were building and stuff, and they'd be making them into place, you know. So they were really interesting places to go to for a kid, you know. It was like a kid in a candy store. Anyway, but the one was up past my high school. My high school hadn't been built at the time I'm talking about, but it was up past it. And my high school was like 7 miles from my house. So it was about 7.5 miles to that place. And the other one was up Route 46, and that was about 7 miles. So you think about it, getting on your bike and going 7 miles, right? No cell phone, no nothing. Your parents don't know where you are, 7 miles away. But we did it routinely, you know. We do it maybe in the summer, we do it maybe 2 or 3 times. And it was a long trek. I mean, you know, riding a bike that far, especially the one up past DePaul, it was hilly. It was uphill. Whew, that was a tough ride. But anyway, enough said. I'll tell you those stories later. But today we're going to talk about taking a walk, right? A walk. Well, from the back of our house, in the back, maybe 50 yards, 75 yards, was a railroad track. And we would go up on a railroad track, and when coming home from school, we come down a railroad track all the time, right? Now, and the railroad track was always interesting. There was always something along the tracks, this, as kids, scavengers. Anyway, so we go out this one day and we're looking for punks. I don't know if you guys know what a punk is, but it's a weed. It grows in a swamp. It's got a seed pod, and it grows about, the seed pod gets to be 6 to 12 inches. And they're hard as a rock in this first year, but you cut them down, you put them in the attic, warm them, and they brown up. And then the next year you can light them. And what we had, they didn't spray in those days. So you had a lot of mosquitoes around. And so if you were gonna sit outside, and don't forget, there's no air conditioning. So you sat outside a lot because it was hot. So when you went to sit outside, you'd put 2 or 3 punks out and light them, and they would burn real slow. I mean, you could use them for days, but they burn real slow, and it would give off a nice smelling smoke, actually, and it kept all the mosquitoes away. So anyway, so we would go harvest punks routinely. Anyway, we're going up to harvest these punks, and we're walking. Now, we got two goals in mind. We're going up looking for punks, but when you get up right around my Aunt Tootsie's, about a mile and a half from our house, there's a bend, a little bit bend in the tracks, and it goes across the trestle. And it's an old wooden trestle, high. It's about, maybe 60 feet, maybe higher off the water. And there's a stream down there, you know, and a little stream, maybe, 2 feet of water kind of, but maybe 20 feet wide, 2 feet of water. Anyway, but the trestle was pretty long. It was about 60 feet high. It was probably about 150 feet long. And we would walk across the trestle because the beams on the railroad are pretty far apart. But when you got to the trestle, they would only be a few inches apart. So you could walk, but you had to walk in the middle of the tracks. Now, you had to check behind you, make sure nothing was coming, and then you just hustle across the tracks. And we'd always listen, hold our hands on the tracks and stuff like that and listen in case there was something coming from New York. It seldom happened. There were seldom trains from New York. Most of the trains during the day were going to New York. Then at the end of the day, they'd be coming back out. So anyway, we cross the trestle, right? And there were places, swampy places up along the way, and we look for punks up there. Anyway, we keep going across the trestle, and we all noticed that across the trestle there were two barrels. It was a barrel about a third of the way across, and a barrel, and they were on a little platform out from the trestle, and they had a little metal barrier, a little guardrail around them. And we always kind of wondered, what the heck are those things for? And somebody finally told us that when men are working on the trestle, if a train comes and they should happen to get caught on the trestle, normally they can get off the trestle. They see it coming a long way. But if they should, they can just hustle to one of these two barrels and climb in the barrel. And in that way, they didn't have to try to hold on to the trestle when the train come across because it shook the trestle. I'll tell you, it shook the trestle because I'll tell you the story. Anyway, so we're walking across the trestle one day, and I go, I'm going to get in that barrel. I'm going to just see what it's like. So we got the punks and stuff like that. We're waiting for the train to come. And finally, here comes the train. You can see the train for a couple miles. So we see the train coming. I go over and I get in the barrel. Everybody else is on the side of the bridge waiting. I get in the barrel. Now, I got to duck down in the barrel because I don't want the engineer to see me in the barrel. I don't know what the heck he might do, Anyway, so I'm ducked down in the barrel, and the train's coming. Well, that little bend, because the train made a little bend going across the trestle, it made it look like that train was going to hit the barrel for sure. It looked like it was coming right at me. Whew, man. Anyway, I finally ducked down, and that trestle shook like you wouldn't believe. I had no idea. I didn't think that trestle was going to stay in one piece. I mean, it shook like, whoa, because it was a freight train, and it had about 20 or 30 cars. It shook that trestle. Oh, now once the train went past me, the engine went past me, then I could get up because I couldn't breathe. I mean, I was down in the barrel. The barrel, I didn't realize it was rusted. Well, when the train went over and shook the trestle, it shook the barrel like crazy, and all the rust. And I really couldn't even breathe. The rust was so bad. So as soon as the engine got by me, I was up, holding on for dear life. Of course, it shook the heck out of me. And that was a good lesson, though, because that was the last time I was ever in a barrel on a trestle. I decided once was enough. I was not going to push my luck, because I also looked down, and the barrel was bolted down with maybe 4 bolts on the barrel, through the bottom of the barrel. But, it rains and everything else. That barrel, the bottom of that barrel was all rusted. It was like, how safe is this barrel? Anyway, it was a lesson learned, a little adventure. It was never discussed at home. No one ever knew about it. We just brought the punks home, put them up in the attic. Anyway, there's other stories like that coming along. Take care. Talk to you later.